My only son sold my house for $600,000 and sent me to a nursing home without my consent. I woke up in an unfamiliar room, not remembering how I got there, and only the nurse told me that I had been brought there 4 days ago. He thought he had gotten rid of the problem. In reality, I turned this crime into his nightmare. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The ceiling was white, wrong kind of white, not my bedroom white with the water stains shaped like Florida. This was hospital white, sterile white, the kind that screamed institution. I tried to lift my head, lead weights pressed against my temples. My mouth tasted like cotton and rust. The fog in my brain felt thick, syrupy, wrong. But underneath that fog, something sharp remained. That part of me started cataloging. Unfamiliar room, medical equipment humming behind me, thin blanket that wasn't mine, morning light through vertical blinds I'd never seen. Where was I? The door opened. A woman in navy scrubs entered, clipboard in hand, professional smile arranged. Mid-40s, auburn hair pulled back, tired eyes that had seen too many confused elderly people. "Mr. Hunt, you're awake. Good morning." Her voice had the modulated gentleness people use on children and the impaired. "I'm Esther Morrison, the facility director here at Golden Years Living. How are you feeling?" "Confused." My voice came out rough. "What facility?" Esther's smile faltered. She pulled a chair closer, sat with practiced ease. "You're at our senior living center on Orange Grove Boulevard in Pasadena. Your son Warren brought you here 4 days ago. You've been resting since then." 4 days. The words hit like ice water. "Warren brought me here? Why would Warren—" "Your son was very concerned, Mr. Hunt. The progressive dementia had reached a point where he felt you needed professional care." She consulted her clipboard. "For your own safety." Dementia. I stared at Esther Morrison, my mind cutting through the fog like a knife. I tested myself. My address was 1247 Hillcrest Avenue, Pasadena, California, 91103. Phone number 626-555-0147. Bank account at First California started with 4,728. I'd made 3 stock trades last Tuesday, sold Microsoft at 412, bought Tesla at 187, moved 5,000 into bonds. Yesterday was... No, wait. What day was yesterday? The fog thickened around recent days. Everything before that? Crystal clear. What specific memory problems did Warren describe? I kept my voice level, lawyer calm. Decades of financial consulting had taught me never to show panic. Forgetting appointments, leaving the stove on, getting lost, driving familiar routes. Esther's expression remained sympathetic. "These things happen, Mr. Hunt. There's no shame in needing help. I'd never forgotten an appointment in my life. I didn't cook enough to leave stoves on. And I could drive to my office blindfolded after 45 years. "I'd like to see the admission paperwork," I said. Something flickered across Esther's face. "Of course, I can bring those to you. Mr. Hunt, is there someone you'd like me to call?" "Just the paperwork." After she left, I lay still and remembered. 3 months ago, Warren across from me at Celestino's, that Italian place he claimed to love. My daughter-in-law Clara beside him, eyes red from crying, their hands clasped on the tablecloth like they were drowning. "Dad, we need help," Warren had said, his voice cracked. "Financial trouble, unexpected expenses, tax issues, bad investments. I need $15,000, temporarily. I'll pay you back in 60 days. Clara squeezed his hand. "We're so sorry to ask, but you're the only person we can turn to." I'd written the check before dessert arrived, my only son, desperate. What else would a father do? Warren had hugged me tight, his heart hammering. "Thank you, Dad. I'll never forget this." The memory dissolved as Esther returned with a manila folder. I opened it. Admission forms. Medical evaluation from Dr. Richard Sanderson. A name I'd never heard. Cognitive assessment showing significant impairment. Power of attorney giving Warren authority over my medical care. And there, at the bottom, my signature. Except it wasn't. I'd spent 45 years examining financial documents for Beverly Hills clients, spotting forgeries and prenuptials, finding hidden money in divorces. I knew signatures the way a jeweler knows diamonds. This crude scrawl wasn't even close. The L in Lyman slanted wrong. The H in Hunt had a loop I'd never made. Someone had looked at my signature on something, probably that check, and tried to copy it, badly. My hands didn't shake. My voice stayed level. "This isn't my signature." Esther leaned forward, studied the document. Confusion creased her forehead. "Mr. Hunt, I can tell you every financial decision I've made in the past year," I interrupted. "Every stock trade, every coin I purchased. That's not dementia, Ms. Morrison. And this," I held up the forged document, "is fraud." But my mind was already moving past shock. This wasn't neglect. This wasn't misguided concern. Warren hadn't panicked. He'd planned this. He'd drugged me. Yes, I remembered now. That coffee Warren brought 3 days before I lost time. The overwhelming sleepiness. He'd forged documents. He'd dumped me in a facility with a false diagnosis. Calculated theft. Warren Hunt had just made the mistake of his life. The man he'd drugged and discarded wasn't a helpless old father. He was someone who'd spent decades teaching wealthy people how to hide assets, spot fraud, follow money trails others couldn't see. Warren was going to learn exactly who he'd stolen from. The forged signature stared back at me, insulting in its incompetence. I'd taught Warren to write his name when he was 5, carefully guiding his small hand across lined paper. Now he'd repaid that patience by scrawling a mockery of mine. "Ms. Morrison," I said, keeping my voice measured, "I need to use a phone immediately." Esther stood there, uncertainty radiating from her. She was realizing something had gone wrong with my admission, but procedure and liability were probably screaming competing instructions. "Mr. Hunt, perhaps we should contact Dr. Sanderson first. The phone, now. Unless you'd like to explain to a judge why you prevented an unlawfully detained man from contacting his attorney." 10 minutes later, I sat in the facility's common area with a cordless phone and copies of every document in my file. Esther had retreated, but I caught her watching through the glass door. I dialed Warren's cell. Straight to voicemail. Not his personalized message, just the robotic default. I tried 3 more times. Same result. Warren had disconnected his number or blocked mine. That thoroughness pointed to premeditation. You don't block your father's calls on impulse. I spread the documents across the table. The power of attorney showed Warren as my medical decision-maker, authorized to place me in long-term care. Except I'd never signed it. The medical evaluation described progressive cognitive decline, confusion, memory gaps, inability to manage finances. Dr. Sanderson had never met me, yet he'd written 3 pages documenting my deterioration. Either Warren had paid him, or he'd simply copied Warren's script. The billing statement showed Warren had paid my first month in cash. $4,000. Smart, actually. No paper trail from his bank, nothing to trace. My son wasn't just a thief. He'd put genuine thought into this. I spent the next hour requesting medical records. Esther, increasingly nervous, complied. The blood work showed elevated Ambien and clonazepam, sedatives I'd never knowingly taken. Chemical proof. Warren had drugged me. The fog in my head cleared as I worked. This was familiar territory. Find the documents, follow the money, build the case. I'd done it 1,000 times for clients. Now, I was doing it for myself. The next morning, my old neighbor Sidney Black appeared in the doorway. He stood there in his worn Dodgers jacket, looking uncomfortable among the walkers and wheelchairs. Sidney was 78, but moved like he was 60. All nervous energy. "Lyman?" He approached cautiously. "Warren said you'd gone traveling, Europe or something. But then I saw a statement from this place in your mail pile. What's going on? How did you find me? Your mail piling up worried me." Sidney pulled up a chair. "You look fine, better than me, honestly." "I am fine. Tell me about my house, Sidney. What have you seen?" His expression shifted. "You don't know?" "Assume I know nothing." Sidney exhaled. "About 2 months ago, I saw Warren at your place with a moving truck. Big U-Haul, 3 guys loading furniture. Clara was directing traffic. I asked what was happening, and Warren said you'd decided to downsize. Maybe Arizona." He paused. "I thought it was weird you didn't mention it at coffee that morning, but Warren seemed legit. And since then?" "Last week I saw the sign. Big red sold banner. $850,000. The number hit like a physical blow. I'd bought that house in 1995 for $320,000. With Pasadena real estate now, especially in San Rafael district, That property was worth at least $1.2 million. Warren had undersold it by $350,000 minimum. Either he'd needed fast cash, or he'd found a buyer willing to overlook questions. Who was the agent? Some woman from Coldwell Banker, Jennifer something. She and Clara seemed pretty chummy. I saw them outside one day, and Clara was talking loud enough for me to overhear. Sydney looked uncomfortable. She said, "Finally got rid of the problem." Then they noticed me and shut up. Finally got rid of the problem. Not Dad's moving, not we're helping him. The problem. That's what I'd become to my son and his wife. Not a father, a problem requiring disposal. Anything else? The buyers moved in 3 days ago. Young couple, 2 kids. They asked if I knew where you'd gone because they found boxes in the garage. I didn't know what to tell them. After Sydney left, promising to gather more information, I sat in the facility room as evening light faded. The reflection staring back looked different from the confused man who'd woken here, sharper, focused. I recognized that face from decades ago, back when I'd sat across from adversaries in conference rooms, ready to take apart their financial lives. I picked up the phone Esther had reluctantly provided. My list of calls sat beside me. County Recorder's Office, First California Bank, 3 attorney names from my old roster. If Warren had sold the house, there was a paper trail, deed transfers, escrow documents, title insurance. He'd left evidence everywhere because he'd assumed I'd never wake up to fight back. He didn't know that man had spent 45 years managing millions for Beverly Hills families, teaching people how to hide assets, create shell companies, move money through legal labyrinths. I knew every trick because I'd invented half of them. Warren had studied business administration at UCLA. I'd taught estate planning to people who made more in a week than Warren would see in a lifetime. He'd brought a knife to a gunfight. I dialed the county recorder's office. The phone rang. A woman answered, "Los Angeles County Recorder, how can I help you?" "I need information about a recent property transfer," I said. 1247 Hillcrest Avenue, Pasadena. My reflection in the darkening window looked almost predatory. Warren was about to learn what happened when you stole from someone who'd spent a lifetime teaching others how to steal legally. Every trick he might try, I'd already seen. Every loophole he might exploit, I'd already closed. This wasn't revenge, it was education, and the tuition was going to cost Warren everything. "Los Angeles County Recorder, how can I help you?" 3 days of phone calls had sharpened my approach. No wasted words, no emotional appeals, just facts. "I need information about a recent property transfer. 1247 Hillcrest Avenue, Pasadena." Keyboard clicks filtered through the line. The clerk, a woman who sounded like she'd processed 10,000 of these requests, came back 30 seconds later. "Property transfer January 15, 2025. Grantor, Lyman Hunt. Grantee, Warren Hunt. Sale price $850,000 to third-party buyer. Transfer based on power of attorney dated February 3, 2024. February 3, 2024. Over a year ago. My hand tightened on the phone. Warren hadn't acted on impulse or desperation. He'd been planning this for at least 14 months. "I need copies of every document in that file," I said, "especially the power of attorney." "Are you the property owner?" "I was, until my son forged my signature and stole it." A pause. "I'll need identification to release those documents, Mr. Hunt. Can you come to our office? I'm currently detained in a facility against my will based on fraudulent documents, but I can have my attorney make the request." I hung up and dialed the number I'd found in my mental Rolodex, a name from 20 years ago. Irving Daniels. We'd worked parallel cases in Beverly Hills, him on the legal side, me on the financial forensics. If he was still practicing and hadn't retired to Scottsdale like half my former colleagues, he'd be perfect. The receptionist put me through. A man's voice, rougher than I remembered. "Irving Daniels. This is Lyman Hunt. We worked together on the Morrison estate case in 2003. You handled the—" "Lyman Hunt?" Confusion first, then recognition clicking into place. "Wait, Lyman Hunt, the coin guy? The financial consultant? I thought you retired years ago." "I did. Now I need a different kind of consulting. Elder abuse case. My own son drugged me, forged documents, sold my house, and put me in a nursing home with a fake dementia diagnosis." Silence. Then, "Your son did what?" I laid it out in 5 minutes. The dinner 3 months ago, the drugging, waking in golden years living, the forged admission paperwork, Sydney's news about the house, the county recorder's revelation about a power of attorney I'd never signed. "This is textbook elder financial abuse," Irving said, and I could hear him shifting into attorney mode. "California Welfare and Institutions Code, 15610, 30 Alley. The forged documents alone are multiple felony charges. I'm filing an emergency petition today. When can you meet? I'm stuck in this facility until we sort this out. Not for long. I'll request Adult Protective Services investigation, get you evaluated by a legitimate doctor. We'll have an emergency hearing within 3 weeks. Lyman, they have no idea who they stole from, do they?" A cold smile crossed my face. Warren thinks he robbed a confused old man. He doesn't know I spent 45 years tracking money for people who'd make his little $850,000 theft look like stealing lunch money. "I'll call you back in 2 hours. Next call, Bank of America, my checking account, the one I'd maintained at the Colorado Boulevard branch for 30 years. The automated system recognized my account number, but wouldn't let me access it. I pressed 0 repeatedly until a human answered. "This is regarding account ending in 4728, I said. "Why can't I access it?" More keyboard clicks. "That account was frozen by court order February 1st, 2025. Warren Hunt is listed as conservator. Do you have documentation disputing this?" "Oh, I'll have documentation. Tell me, do you keep records of fraudulent conservatorship claims?" "Sir, if you believe there's been an error, there's been a crime. Expect a subpoena." I hung up and stared at my notes. The pattern was clear now. Warren had spent 2 years setting this up. I remembered him visiting more frequently, asking seemingly innocent questions. "Dad, have you thought about what would happen to the house if something happened to you?" That was 18 months ago, when Clara made her comment about me being alone in all these rooms. Maybe I should be on the deed just in case. I'd dismissed it. I was 63 then, healthy, sharp. Estate planning could wait. A year ago, Warren brought up power of attorney directly. "My friend's dad had a stroke. No POA on file. Total nightmare. Just sign this, keep it in a drawer, hope we never need it." I'd refused. "I'll handle my own affairs." Warren had backed off immediately, too immediately, because he didn't need my signature. He just needed a sample to copy badly. Esther Morrison appeared in my doorway, carrying another manila folder. Over the past 3 days, she'd transformed from confident facility director to deeply uncomfortable witness. "Mr. Hunt, you asked for all the intake paperwork. This is everything." I took the folder. Insurance forms, medical assessments, payment records. Warren had paid the first month in cash, $4,000, leaving no bank trail. Smart, in a criminal sort of way. "Ms. Morrison, when Warren brought me here, did he seem nervous? Rushed?" She considered. "He seemed concerned. Said you'd been having episodes, getting confused, and he'd found you wandering outside your house at night. He cried when he left." "I've never wandered anywhere in my life. I don't even sleepwalk. Those tears were performance art." My phone rang. Irving calling back 90 minutes later. "Petition filed. I'm requesting emergency hearing, APS investigation, immediate freeze on all property transfers. I cited the forged documents, the suspicious admission circumstances, everything. If the judge gives us March 10th, that's 3 weeks from now. What do I need to do? Cooperate with APS when they come. Be yourself, sharp, detailed, analytical. Let them see there's nothing wrong with your mind. The contrast with Warren's fake diagnosis will be damning." He paused. "One more thing. Do you have resources? This is going to cost—" "I have resources," I said carefully. "More than Warren knows about. But let's keep that between us for now." "Understood. Lyman, they're going to pay for this. Every penny stolen, plus damages, plus my fees." After he hung up, I sat in the dimming facility room and reconstructed my financial landscape in my head. The Bank of America checking account Warren had frozen held $45,000. My monthly living expenses, nothing more. My Wells Fargo private bank account, the one I'd never mentioned to Warren, held the real wealth. $3.5 million in rare coins accumulated over 40 years. Another $800,000 in diversified stocks and bonds. Warren didn't know about Wells Fargo. He'd seen the modest house, the aging Camry, the simple lifestyle, and assumed that's all there was. He'd stolen $850,000 and thought he'd gotten everything. The arrogance was breathtaking and useful. I spent the evening writing a detailed timeline on the facility's notepad. Every visit from Warren over the past 2 years. Every comment about the house being too big, too expensive, too much for one person. Every financial question disguised as concern. Clara's pointed remarks about me being alone, needing help. What if something happens? They'd been casing me like burglars studying a house before a break-in. The knock on my door came at 8:30. Esther stood there, looking uncertain. "Mr. Hunt, there's something I should tell you. A woman from Adult Protective Services called this afternoon. She's coming tomorrow to interview you." I nodded slowly, pieces falling into perfect alignment. "What's her name?" "Mabel Torres. She said it's a routine investigation following a court petition." "Routine?" I allowed myself a small, cold smile. "Let her come. I've got a lot to say. Tomorrow, the official record would show my mind was sound. Tomorrow, Warren's dementia lie crumbles into dust. Tomorrow, the documentation that wins wars begins in earnest." I looked at my notes. Timeline, documents, witness names, legal codes Irving had cited. 45 years of building financial cases had taught me one fundamental truth. Documentation destroys people more thoroughly than violence ever could. And Warren had just handed me enough documentation to destroy him completely. Mabel Torres arrived at 9 the next morning, carrying a leather portfolio and 30 years of experience in her steady gaze. My APS social worker was 60, gray-haired, with the kind of face that had seen every con, every abuse case, every family betrayal Los Angeles County could produce. Esther showed her to the facility's small conference room. Mabel sat across from me, opened her portfolio, and smiled. "Mr. Hunt, I'm here because the court has concerns about your conservatorship. I need to ask you some questions. Take your time answering." "I've got nothing but time." For 90 minutes, she tested me. "What year is it?" "February 2025. Who's president?" "I named him." "What's your address?" 1247 Hillcrest Avenue, though apparently not anymore. Count backward from 100 by sevens. I rattled them off. "Remember these 3 words: apple, table, penny." She asked me 15 other questions, then, "What were those 3 words?" "Apple, table, penny." "Tell me about your financial management," Mabel said, making notes. I recited every stock trade from the past year, my bank account numbers, the property tax on my house, former house, and for good measure, the current exchange rate of Bitcoin. Her eyebrow raised. "Mr. Hunt, can you explain this?" She slid a document across the table. Medical evaluation from Dr. Richard Chen, dated November 2024, describing significant memory impairment, confusion, inability to manage daily tasks. 3 pages of detailed observations about my deteriorating mental state. "I've never met Dr. Richard Chen," I said. "I've never had a cognitive evaluation. That document is complete fiction. Your son submitted this to establish conservatorship. My son hired someone to create a fake diagnosis so he could steal my house legally. How's Dr. Chen's medical license looking these days?" Something shifted in Mabel's expression. "You tell me." "I'd guess it's either suspended or he's one malpractice lawsuit away from losing it. Warren doesn't hire the best people. He hires the cheapest." Mabel made a note. "Tell me about your relationship with your son." I gave her the timeline I'd prepared. 2 years of escalating manipulation. The questions about the house, the power of attorney pressure, the dinner 3 months ago when he asked for money, the drugging, the 4-day gap, waking here with forged documents. "Warren has always taken shortcuts," I said. "In college, he tried to plagiarize a term paper and got caught. In his 20s, he invested in a friend's startup without researching it and lost $12,000 I'd lent him. Clara, his wife, bought a BMW they couldn't afford, and it got repossessed. They've always been financially irresponsible, but I never thought they'd graduate to elder abuse." Mabel closed her portfolio. "Mr. Hunt, I've conducted thousands of these evaluations. You show 0 signs of cognitive impairment. Your memory is sharper than mine. I'll be recommending immediate review of your conservatorship and full investigation of the documents your son submitted." That's what I wanted to hear. After she left, I called Sydney. My old neighbor had become my informal investigator, driving around Pasadena, gathering intelligence. "Lyman, you're not going to believe this," Sidney said, barely containing his excitement. "I went to that address you asked about, 2547 Mariposa Street in Altadena. It's Warren's. I checked county records. He bought it December 2024 for $680,000. Cash purchase." The timeline clicked into place. House sale closed mid-January. Warren bought Altadena property in December. He'd used my money before the sale even finalized, probably through advance from the buyer or a bridge loan. "What's the property like?" "Rundown bungalow, needs serious work. There's a sign in the yard, coming soon, renovated. But I don't see any construction happening. And get this, I talked to Martha next door. She said Clara was there in January with paint samples, bragging about finally upgrading their investment portfolio. Used your money to do it, Lyman. At least they invested in real estate," I said. "Could have been worse. Could have been crypto." Sidney's laugh was bitter. "The whole neighborhood's talking. People are furious. Did you hear Warren Hunt put his father in a home without telling anyone? Sold Lyman's house right out from under him while he was locked up. Your reputation is solid, Lyman. Warren's turning into a pariah. Social revenge happening organically. I hadn't lifted a finger, and the community was destroying Warren's standing without prompting. There was poetry in that. Irving called that afternoon with news that made my day. I verified Dr. Chen's credentials. Medical license suspended March 2023 for falsifying patient records in an insurance fraud case. Warren literally hired a criminal doctor to create a criminal diagnosis. Warren always took shortcuts, I said. Guess he took one straight to prison. Speaking of which, we've got our court date. March 10th, 2025, 9 a.m., Pasadena Courthouse. Judge Robert Martinez presiding. I'm filing a motion to freeze all of Warren's assets pending investigation, subpoena all his bank records, and request full accounting of the house sale proceeds. We're going to bury him in documentation. That's what I want to hear. Over the next few days, the picture clarified. Sidney reported that Warren and Clara were living in a rented apartment in South Pasadena, $2,800 per month. Their primary residence had a mortgage of $3,000 monthly. Add the two together, plus utilities, insurance, food, and they were burning through $6,500 a month minimum. Sidney had learned from Martha that the Altadena property hadn't sold, was sitting empty accumulating costs. Warren had $170,000 left from my house sale, maybe less. 2 months of expenses, and he'd be underwater. The pressure was already building, and he didn't even know it yet. I thought about my own modest lifestyle by choice. The 2008 Camry I'd kept running for 17 years, not because I couldn't afford new, but because I didn't want attention. Shopping at Vaughn's instead of Gelson's, wearing the same 3 jackets in rotation. Warren had seen that modesty and mistaken it for poverty, for vulnerability. He'd never asked about my hobbies, never showed interest in the coin collection I'd started in 1985 with a Morgan silver dollar purchased for $200, now worth $8,000. 40 years of patient accumulation. Each coin researched, authenticated, stored in a Wells Fargo vault he didn't know existed. Those boring old coins Dad collected were worth $3.5 million, 10 times more than the house he'd stolen. The irony was sharp enough to cut. Warren had destroyed his life, stealing the small pile of money, while the real fortune sat invisible. March 6th, 4 days before the hearing, Irving called one final time. His voice carried grim satisfaction. "Lyman, I've got everything. Forged power of attorney, fake medical records from a suspended doctor, unauthorized property sale, fraudulent conservatorship, APS report confirming your mental competency, bank records showing Warren spent your money on an investment property the same month he sold your house. Judge Martinez is going to eviscerate him." Good. One more thing. The petition is public record now. Court clerk mentioned a reporter from Pasadena Star News, requested a copy this morning. This is going public. I sat in the pale evening light, filtering through the facility window. Somewhere across Pasadena, Warren was making dinner, watching television, living his life with stolen money, believing he'd won. He had no idea that in 4 days, in a courtroom on Colorado Boulevard, his entire world would end. And after that, after the legal demolition, that's when the real revenge began. That's when Warren learned about the Wells Fargo vault. the $4.3 million he just destroyed his life trying to access early. Irving, I said quietly, make sure Warren and Clara both get served. I want them to have the weekend to panic. Already done. Process server is delivering tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Tomorrow, Warren learns the old man fought back. Warren discovers the quiet father in the nursing home hired one of LA's top elder abuse attorneys. Warren realizes he's not getting away with anything. Let the games begin. The Brooks Brothers suit had been in storage for 6 years, since my retirement. Charcoal gray, perfectly tailored. The kind of suit that said, I manage money for people who could buy your house with pocket change. Irving had suggested I wear it. Show the judge who they really stole from. March 10th, 9 in the morning. Pasadena Courthouse at 300 East Walnut Street. Irving met me outside courtroom 3B, looking sharp in his own armor. Ready? I've been ready for 5 weeks. We entered. Warren and Clara sat at the defendant's table with their attorney, a young guy who couldn't have been older than 35. Michael Green, according to Irving's research, solo practitioner, $500 consultation fee, probably took the case hoping for a quick settlement. Warren wore khakis and a polo shirt, like he was meeting friends for golf, not facing a judge. Clara had on a floral dress that looked expensive, but wasn't. They glanced up as I entered. Warren's face went through a fascinating progression. Confusion, recognition, shock. This wasn't the confused old man he'd drugged. This was someone else entirely. I sat behind Irving's table. The judge entered. Robert Martinez, 62, former prosecutor with a reputation for despising elder abuse cases. This is case number 25CV04729, Lyman Hunt versus Warren Hunt and Clara Hunt, the clerk announced. Emergency petition regarding elder financial abuse and fraudulent conservatorship. Irving stood. Your Honor, I represent Lyman Hunt, the petitioner. May I proceed with opening statement? Go ahead, Mr. Daniels. Irving's voice carried through the courtroom, clear and merciless. Your Honor, on or about November 15th, 2024, Warren Hunt administered sedatives to his father without consent. Lyman Hunt lost consciousness. He has no memory of the following 4 days. He awoke February 7th, 2025, in Golden Years Living Facility, having been involuntarily committed based on a fraudulent dementia diagnosis. During his incapacitation, his home at 1247 Hillcrest Avenue was sold for $850,000 using a forged power of attorney. This is not a family dispute. This is elder financial abuse under California welfare, an institutions code 15610-130, plus forgery and theft. I watched Warren's face drain of color. He'd thought I was too drugged to remember, too confused to piece it together. The realization that I remembered nothing but knew everything hit him like physics. Irving presented the evidence package. Mabel Torres's APS report showing perfect cognitive function. Graphology expert analysis proving the power of attorney's signature was forged. Medical records from my actual physician, Dr. Sarah Williams, documenting excellent mental health. Bank security footage dated February 2nd, 2024, the day before the signed power of attorney, showing me at Wells Fargo conducting a complex coin authentication, discussing market values, making decisions requiring sharp analytical thinking. Judge Martinez reviewed each document. Mr. Green, does your client dispute any of this evidence? Green stood, fumbling with his notepad. Your Honor, my clients believed they were acting in Mr. Hunt's best interest, his health, his safety. By forging legal documents, the judge's voice could have cut steel. By selling his property without consent, by creating a false medical diagnosis, they were concerned. Concern doesn't justify forgery, counselor. Martinez turned to the evidence. I'm looking at bank footage showing Mr. Hunt conducting sophisticated financial transactions the day before this power of attorney was supposedly signed. Dr. Williams' records show no cognitive decline. The APS evaluation is unambiguous. What exactly was your client's reasonable basis for believing their father was incompetent? Green had nothing. We'd need to review additional. There is no additional. This is fraud. Martinez looked at Warren and Clara. I'm issuing a temporary restraining order, freezing all proceeds from the property sale, effective immediately. This matter is continued to March 20th for you to show cause why permanent injunctions shouldn't be issued, and why this shouldn't be referred for criminal prosecution. Do you understand? Warren finally spoke. Your Honor, there's been a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding is yours, Mr. Hunt. You thought you could drug your father, forge his signature, and steal his house. You thought wrong. He banged the gavel. We're adjourned. I took the witness stand during the evidentiary portion. Irving walked me through the timeline. The dinner with Warren and Clara, the coffee that tasted bitter, the overwhelming sleepiness, waking 4 days later in an unfamiliar room, the forged documents, the stolen house. The last thing I remember before waking in that facility was my son's face across the dinner table, I said. My voice stayed level, factual. He'd asked me for $15,000 3 months earlier. I gave it without hesitation. That night, he gave me something too, something that stole 4 days of my life. When I woke up, my house was gone, my bank accounts were frozen, and my son wasn't answering his phone. That's when I understood. I wasn't his father anymore. I was his retirement fund. Clara whispered something to Warren during the recess. Sydney, sitting in the gallery behind them, caught it and told me later. You said he wouldn't remember. You said the drugs would make everything fuzzy. Warren hissed back. How was I supposed to know he'd fight back like this? He's never fought back before. On the courthouse steps afterward, reporters clustered around Irving. Word had spread about the elder abuse case. He gave them enough to make headlines. My client was drugged, kidnapped, and robbed by his own son. The evidence is overwhelming. Justice will be served. I stood beside him, silent, letting him speak. My presence told a different story than my silence. This wasn't a helpless victim. This was a dangerous man who'd been patient enough to let Warren destroy himself. As we walked past Warren and Clara on the courthouse steps, I stopped, made eye contact, said 2 words, "Surprise, kids." Then I kept walking, didn't look back, left them frozen in shock behind me. That evening, back in my facility room, tie loosened, jacket hung carefully. Sydney visited with news. They were arguing in the parking lot. Clara was screaming at Warren. Half the courthouse heard it. The phone rang. Irving. Pasadena Star-News is running the story tomorrow. Reporter called for comment. I gave them enough to hang Warren without revealing your full strategy. I smiled. First genuine smile in weeks. Let them read about it in the paper. Let the whole neighborhood read about it. Somewhere across Pasadena, Warren was having dinner, watching TV, living his life with stolen money, believing he still had a chance. He had 10 days until the next hearing, 10 days to panic, make mistakes, dig his grave deeper. I'd spent 45 years watching desperate people make bad decisions under pressure. This was going to be entertaining. March 11th, 7 in the morning. Warren's phone started buzzing. Then Clara's. Then both at once, like coordinated bombardment. I learned about it later from Sydney, who heard it from Martha next door, who'd watched through her window as Warren came outside to get the newspaper, opened it, and went pale. Local son accused of drugging, robbing elderly father. Elder abuse case shocks community. The article had everything: court testimony, Irving's quotes, details about the forged documents and suspended doctor, photo of the courthouse. By 8 a.m., their phones had exploded. Texts, calls, Facebook messages. Sydney reported that Warren's boss called at 8:47 requesting a meeting. I wasn't there to watch it unfold, but I could imagine it perfectly. The panic, the scrambling, the first real understanding that their world was ending. The financial crisis hit immediately. Both mortgages due, $5,800 total. Warren had $3,200 accessible. Clara's expected commission check bounced when her client canceled the transaction after reading the article. They were $2,600 short, with no way to pay because Judge Martinez had frozen the remaining house sale proceeds. March 13th, they met with a new attorney, Gerald Patterson, mid-range firm, $15,000 retainer. They put it on a credit card at 24% interest. Patterson reviewed the evidence Irving had filed and told them what any competent attorney would. The forgery and fake medical diagnosis are indefensible. We can try to argue you believed you were helping him, reduce charges, aim for a plea deal. According to court records later, they refused, demanded he fight, insisted they could prove I needed help. He tried, found 2 witnesses, Jake Morrison, Warren's friend from college, and Linda Haynes, Clara's former colleague. Both would testify I'd seemed confused and forgetful. The March 20th hearing was where Patterson's strategy died. Jake took the stand first. Yes, he'd seen me at social events. Yes, I'd seemed a bit off. Irving stood for cross-examination. Mr. Morrison, how many times have you met Lyman Hunt? Twice, maybe 3 times. Over what time period? The past 5 years? So you met him 3 times in 5 years, and based on these brief encounters, you're qualified to assess his mental capacity. He seemed confused. About what specifically? He forgot my name once. Irving turned to the judge. Your Honor, I forgot my dental hygienist's name last week. I don't have dementia. Scattered laughter from the gallery. Jake was dismissed. Linda Haynes fared worse. She testified I'd seemed forgetful at a holiday party in 2023. Irving asked if she had medical training. No. Geriatric psychology experience? No. Had she spent more than 30 minutes total speaking with me? No. So, you're basing your assessment on a brief conversation at a party 2 years ago? He just seemed not quite right. Irving introduced Sydney's testimony next. My old neighbor spoke clearly about detailed conversations we'd had about financial markets, real estate trends, political analysis. Lyman's memory is better than mine, and I'm 13 years younger. Dr. Sarah Williams testified next. My physician for 15 years, she brought medical records showing I'd passed a full cognitive screening in October 2024, 4 months before Warren committed me. Mr. Hunt showed no signs of dementia, memory impairment, or cognitive decline. His test results were above average for his age group. Then came the bank footage. Irving had it cued perfectly. February 2nd, 2024, the day before the forged power of attorney was supposedly signed. Security camera showed me at Wells Fargo, conducting authentication of 3 rare Morgan silver dollars. The audio was clear, me discussing authentication techniques, market values, investment strategy with the vault manager, complex, detailed, analytical thinking. Judge Martinez watched the entire clip, turned to Patterson. Counselor, your clients claim Mr. Hunt was incompetent to manage his affairs. This footage was taken one day before they supposedly had him sign a power of attorney. What am I missing? Patterson had nothing. Your Honor, the footage doesn't. It shows a man conducting sophisticated financial transactions requiring sharp mental acuity. Combined with Dr. Williams' testimony and the APS evaluation, this court finds Mr. Hunt clearly possessed full mental capacity. He looked at Warren and Clara. This case is referred to the District Attorney's Office for Criminal Prosecution. I'm recommending charges of elder financial abuse under Welfare and Institutions Code 1561030, forgery under Penal Code 470, and fraud under Penal Code 532. Assets remain frozen pending criminal proceedings. Patterson stood. Your Honor, my clients face financial hardship without access. Hardship is a consequence of their alleged criminal actions. Motion denied. After the hearing, Irving released another statement to media. My client's son and daughter-in-law not only stole his home, they used the money to purchase investment property for themselves while leaving him in a facility. This was not care. This was calculated theft. The story went regional. LA Times picked it up. The cascade accelerated. March 14th, Warren met with his boss and HR at the IT company where he'd worked for 8 years. They presented him with the resignation option versus termination, company values, reputation concerns, the board's decision. He resigned, losing his $95,000 salary and benefits effective immediately. Clara's broker called the same day. Terminated her contract, cited ethics clause. Can't have someone accused of elder abuse representing the firm. The California Department of Real Estate opened an investigation. Her license was suspended pending outcome. Their apartment, March 16th evening. Clara screaming, "You said this would work. You said your father was too out of it to fight back. Now we have nothing and everyone knows what we did." Warren defensive, desperate. How was I supposed to know he had connections? That he'd get some legendary attorney? He's been a nobody for 10 years. He was never a nobody. We were just too stupid to see it. The community response was organic, vicious, complete. Neighborhood Facebook groups exploded with condemnation. Someone posted the court documents. Comments piled up. Hundreds of people condemning the theft, expressing sympathy for me, calling Warren and Clara monsters. Martha started a phone tree. The Johnsons crossed the street when they saw Clara at Vaughn's. Someone left a printed copy of the news article in Warren's mailbox with "shame" written across it in red marker. Patterson called them March 21st with his final assessment. The DA's office will file criminal charges within 2 weeks. Based on evidence, you're looking at a plea deal of 3 years probation, full restitution, community service, permanent record, or trial, where you'll likely lose and face prison time. Clara tried one last desperate move, posted on Facebook, "There are 2 sides to every story. My father-in-law isn't telling you everything." It backfired spectacularly. Comments tore her apart. The post was screenshot, shared across Pasadena social networks, made them look even worse. March 22nd, late evening. I sat in the facility common room, watching local news coverage of the hearing, reporter standing outside courthouse. Judge Martinez has referred the case to the district attorney's office for criminal prosecution. Warren and Clara Hunt face charges of elder financial abuse, forgery, and fraud. Sydney appeared beside me. How does it feel? I considered. Expensive suit, legendary attorney, frozen bank accounts, criminal charges, front-page news, fired from his job, lost her license. Entire community knows what they did. I paused. We're just getting started. They took my house. I'm taking everything. My phone buzzed. Text from Irving. DA confirmed. Formal charges filed April 3rd. Press conference scheduled. They'll want you there. I texted back, "I'll be there, in person. Time to show them who they really stole from." I looked at Sydney. "Remember when I told you about my coin collection?" He nodded. "Warren thinks he stole everything I had. Wait until he learns what I actually have." April 1st. Irving called with news that made me smile. Warren's attorney filed an emergency motion. They're claiming you manipulated the court by hiding assets, arguing that if you have millions, you could have left the facility any time, so your helpless victim narrative is false. Desperate, I said. Very. But it forces us to reveal your full financial picture in court. Are you ready for that? I've been ready since February. The hearing was set for April 5th. I spent April 4th sleepless in my facility room, running through every scenario. What if Judge Martinez thought I'd been playing games? What if my wealth undermined my case? At 2 a.m, I called Irving. What if this backfires? His response was immediate. Being wealthy doesn't mean you consented to theft. A rich man can still be robbed. The law doesn't say elder abuse only counts if you're poor. He was right. I'd been robbed. The number in my bank account didn't change that. April 5th arrived. I wore the Brooks Brothers suit again. Walked into courtroom 3B like I owned it, which, in a sense, I did. Warren and Clara sat with Patterson, looking hollow. 3 months of frozen assets, missed mortgage payments, and social exile had carved them down to shells. Patterson stood when the judge entered. "Your Honor, we've filed an emergency motion regarding newly discovered information about Mr. Lyman Hunt's financial status." Judge Martinez looked bored already. "I've read your motion, Counselor. You claim Mr. Hunt has been misleading this court?" "Your Honor, if he has substantial assets, his claims of being helplessly trapped in a facility are you arguing that wealthy people can't be victims of elder abuse?" Patterson stumbled. "No, Your Honor, but the full financial picture is relevant to—" "Mr. Daniels, do you have a response?" Irving stood, calm as glass. "Your Honor, my client is indeed wealthy. He's about to explain exactly how wealthy and how that wealth was built. It will become clear that his financial sophistication makes the defendant's fraud even more brazen." I took the stand, raised my right hand, swore to tell the truth, sat down. Irving walked me through it methodically. "Mr. Hunt, please describe your professional background." "I worked 45 years as a financial consultant in Beverly Hills. My clients included entertainment executives, technology entrepreneurs, and established wealthy families. I helped them structure estates, minimize tax liability, and preserve generational wealth." "And your personal wealth?" "I have approximately $3.5 million in rare coins, accumulated over 40 years. Another $800,000 in stocks and bonds. Total net worth around $4.3 million. The courtroom went silent. I watched Warren's face drain of color. Clara's hand went to her mouth. Irving continued, voice measured. Your Honor, the defendants stole and sold their father's home for $850,000. They believed they'd taken everything he owned. In reality, they stole less than 20% of his actual net worth. He presented documentation, Wells Fargo private bank statements, coin collection inventory with authentication certificates, Morgan silver dollars, Buffalo nickels, proof, sets dating to 1936. Each item cataloged, appraised, verified. Mr. Hunt, Irving asked, why did you choose to live modestly despite this wealth? I looked directly at Warren. I believed families should value each other, not bank accounts. I lived in a modest house and drove an old car because I didn't want money to be the center of my relationships. My son saw my modesty and thought I was easy prey. He was wrong. Patterson tried to salvage something. Your Honor, this proves Mr. Hunt could have hired attorneys immediately. Resolved this? Counsel, Judge Martinez's voice was ice. Are you seriously arguing that being robbed is acceptable if you can afford to fight back? That's not a defense. That's an admission. He reviewed the documents spread before him. The courtroom waited. This court has seen many elder abuse cases, Martinez said finally. This is among the most brazen. The defendants didn't steal from a confused elderly man. They stole from a millionaire financial consultant who'd spent decades advising people wealthier than they'll ever be. He looked at Warren and Clara. The audacity is breathtaking. The stupidity even more so. His ruling was comprehensive. The house sale is void. Mr. Hunt gets 1247 Hillcrest Avenue back immediately. The defendants are jointly liable for $85,000 in legal fees and $50,000 in sanctions for fraud. They have 30 days to vacate any property purchased with stolen funds. This case is forwarded to the district attorney with my recommendation for maximum prosecution. Warren whispered something to Clara. Sidney, sitting behind them, told me later what it was. $4 million. We sold his house and he has $4 million? Clara hissed back. You said he had nothing. You said, both of you be quiet, Patterson said, looking ill. I stood, turned to Irving. One more thing. He handed me documents already prepared. Your Honor, I'm executing a new will today. Warren Hunt and Clara Hunt are removed as beneficiaries entirely. They wanted my money without waiting for inheritance. Now, they'll never see a cent of it. The court clerk witnessed my signature, legal, binding, permanent. Outside, reporters clustered around us. Irving gave them one statement. My client's son thought he was weak because he lived modestly, thought he was helpless because he's 65. He was wrong on both counts. Let this be a lesson. Underestimating your elders is expensive. A reporter asked, Mr. Hunt, will you reconcile with your son? I considered. That depends on whether he's capable of change. Right now, I doubt it. That evening, I returned to the facility one final time to pack. Esther helped me with boxes. I'm glad this worked out, she said. You never belonged here. I looked around the small room, 2 months planning revenge from this sterile space, my war room. Now I was leaving it. Irving called. DA confirmed prosecution moving forward. They're offering a plea deal, 3 years probation, full restitution, permanent record. Warren and Clara have 2 weeks to decide. They won't take it, I said. They'll fight until they have nothing left. Speaking of nothing, they have 30 days to sell the Altadena property. Market's soft. They'll lose money. I allowed myself a cold smile. Good. Let them feel every dollar disappearing. Sidney arrived with his car. We loaded my belongings. Tomorrow, I'd go home to Hillcrest Avenue. Tomorrow, Warren and Clara would start their 30-day countdown to complete financial ruin. The criminal charges were coming. The house was mine again. The money was protected. And Warren finally understood what he'd tried to steal from. Too late. Late April brought consequences like dominoes falling. Sidney kept me updated on Warren and Clara's attempts to sell the Altadena property, listed at $680,000, what they'd paid. 0 offers. Their real estate agent, a woman named Jennifer who'd originally seemed enthusiastic, called them with reality. Sidney heard about it through Martha, who heard from someone else. Small-town information networks. Your names are toxic, Jennifer had told them. The news coverage, people know what happened. Combined with the soft market, you're taking a loss. My advice? Accept any reasonable offer. Your deadline is May 5th. They dropped the price to $630,000. Then $600,000. Finally got an offer at $580,000 on April 28th. Accepted it immediately. Desperation, overwhelming pride. The sale closed May 2nd. After realtor fees and closing costs, they netted $558,000 from their $680,000 investment. Loss of $122,000, plus 3 months of carrying costs around $17,000. Combined with court-ordered payments of $135,000, they were left with roughly $423,000, all of which was immediately seized by court order for restitution. I was having coffee with Sydney on my back patio when Irving called with the news. They have nothing left. The court took everything. Good, I said, and meant it. May 8th, Warren and Clara's marriage ended, filed for divorce at Pasadena Courthouse, citing irreconcilable differences. The attorney's office meeting was apparently spectacular. Sydney heard about it from the paralegal who'd processed their paperwork and happened to live 2 streets over. Clara had screamed at Warren. "This was your plan. You said he wouldn't remember, said it would be easy. Instead, we're broke and facing criminal charges because you couldn't plan anything right." Warren shouted back, "I did it for us. You spent 18 months complaining we weren't living well enough. You wanted nicer things. Don't act like you weren't counting that money before we had it." The divorce was simple. No assets to divide, just debt and blame. The collapse accelerated. May 10th, the BMW was repossessed. Repo companies showed up at their apartment, took the car Clara had loved so much. Credit card companies initiated collections on $73,000 in combined debt. Their landlord filed eviction for 3 months of unpaid rent. $6,900 owed. Warren's job search went nowhere. Background checks revealed pending criminal charges. Every application got rejected. He tried delivering food for DoorDash one weekend, earned $140, quit after being recognized by a customer who made a comment about elder abuse. Clara's real estate license was formally revoked by the California Department of Real Estate. Permanent. Her career, built over 12 years, ended in a 2-paragraph letter. May 15th, Sydney came by with news that made me pause. Warren's been driving by the house, just sitting in some beat-up Honda, staring at your place. Martha saw him yesterday, asked if she should call police. "Let him look," I said. "He's not seeing the house. He's seeing $4 million he'll never touch." Clara called that night, then twice more over the next week. I watched her name appear on my phone screen, declined without answering. Irving had briefed me on her strategy. She'd apparently offered to testify against Warren in exchange for leniency, then switched to begging for forgiveness when prosecutors weren't interested. Some lessons are expensive. Theirs cost them everything. May 18th, I hosted a small dinner party. Sydney, Martha, and our neighbors, Robert and Diane. First time I'd entertained in my house since February. The rooms felt different now, reclaimed, restored, mine again. I'd spent early May bringing furniture back from storage, repainting walls where Warren had damaged them, removing items, replacing locks. During dinner, my phone buzzed. Clara again. I glanced at the number, declined the call, set the phone face down. "That's the 4th time this week," I told Sydney later, after the others had left. "She's begging for money, for forgiveness, saying she'll testify against Warren. I don't answer. You think you'll ever talk to them again?" I considered the question while washing wine glasses. My son thought I was weak because I didn't flaunt money, thought I'd accept being institutionalized because I was old. He learned he was wrong. Now he has nothing. No money, no wife, no job, no future. People ask if I'll forgive them. Maybe someday. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, or restoring what they destroyed. Irving called May 15th about the plea deal. DA is willing to reduce charges if they plead guilty. 2 years probation instead of 3, 500 hours community service, permanent criminal record, no prison time. They want your input. "Take the deal," I said without hesitation. "I don't need them in prison. I need them living with this for the next 40 years. Let Warren explain elder financial abuse at every job interview. Let Clara explain her revoked license to every potential employer. That's punishment enough." May 20th, late evening. Sydney and I sat on my back patio, comfortable silence between us. The garden needed work after months of neglect, but I'd get to it. I had time now. My phone buzzed. Text from Irving. Warren and Clara accepted plea deal, sentencing June 15th. 2 years probation, community service, permanent records. It's over. I read it, nodded, set the phone down. How does it feel? Sydney asked. Finally over? I looked at my house, my garden, my reclaimed life. I spent 2 months in that facility planning this, spent April watching them collapse. Now it's May. I'm home, and they're gone. Not dead, just erased from my life. I paused. For them, yes, their lives as they knew them are over. For me, I'm 65. I've got potentially 20 good years left. Years they tried to steal. So, no, it's not over. It's starting over. The garden, the house, the life I'd fought to reclaim. All here, all mine. They taught me something valuable, I said. People show you who they are when they think you're weak. I won't make that mistake again. Sydney raised his glass. To not making mistakes. I touched my glass to his. To second chances. But there was steel in my voice. The old Lyman, the trusting father, had died in that facility. What came back was harder, wiser, and knew exactly what he was worth. Early June, the district attorney's office filed formal charges. ADA Jennifer Wu, a prosecutor in her 40s who'd handled dozens of elder abuse cases, called Irving with the details. 3 felonies each: elder financial abuse, forgery, fraud. Combined exposure of 10 years in prison. They'd be insane not to take the plea deal, Irving told me over the phone. 2 years probation, 500 hours community service, restitution, permanent records. The alternative is trial and prison time. June 10th, Warren and Clara separately accepted the agreement. They couldn't be in the same room anymore, divorced, bitter, each blaming the other for their shared destruction. Patterson called Irving afterward. They took it. Sentencing is June 15th. That morning, I dressed carefully. The Brooks brothers sued again. This would be the last time I'd face them in court. The final chapter. The courtroom was packed. Journalists from LA Times, Pasadena Star News, 2 local TV stations, neighbors, Martha, Robert, Diane, community members who'd followed the case, elder rights advocates taking notes. Mabel Torres from APS sat in the gallery, witnessing the conclusion of her investigation. Warren entered first. I barely recognized him. 20 pounds lighter, hollow-eyed, wearing clothes that didn't fit right. He'd aged a decade in 4 months. Clara came in separately, took a seat on the opposite side. She looked harder, older. The confident real estate agent was gone, replaced by someone who'd learned what loss really meant. Judge Martinez took the bench. This court is in session for the sentencing of Warren Hunt and Clara Hunt, who have entered guilty pleas to elder financial abuse under California Welfare and Institutions Code 15610, dyings, forgery under Penal Code 470, and fraud under Penal Code 532. ADA Wu stood. Your Honor, before sentencing, I'd like to read Mr. Lyman Hunt's victim impact statement. She read my words aloud. My son didn't just steal my house. He stole 4 days of my consciousness, my sense of safety, my trust in family. He made me question my own mind. That violation goes beyond money. I've recovered financially. The emotional theft takes longer. Warren was crying. Clara stared at the table. The judge asked if they had statements. Patterson nodded. Warren stood, hands shaking, reading from paper. Your Honor, I drugged my own father. I forged his signature. I sold his house while he was unconscious. I did it because I was in debt and desperate, and I thought he'd never know. I thought he was just an old man who wouldn't fight back. His voice broke. I was wrong about everything. I destroyed my marriage, my career, my life, but worst of all, I destroyed my relationship with my father. There's no excuse. I accept whatever punishment this court gives me. He looked toward me in the gallery. Dad, Address your remarks to the court, Mr. Hunt, Martinez said sharply. Clara's statement was shorter. Admitted she'd manipulated Warren against me, destroyed her family for money. Her voice was flat, defeated. Judge Martinez leaned forward. Mr. Hunt and Ms. Hunt, you stand before this court having pleaded guilty to heinous crimes. You betrayed the most sacred trust that exists, a child's duty to protect their parent. You drugged him, forged documents in his name, stole his home, and institutionalized him against his will. His voice was hard. That you did this for money makes it more contemptible, not less. The law requires I accept your plea agreement. I do so reluctantly. You deserve harsher punishment. But I am satisfied you will carry permanent felony records, that you've lost everything you sought to steal, and that your names will forever be associated with this shameful act. He sentenced them, according to the plea deal, 2 years probation, 500 hours community service, 100,000 in additional restitution, mandatory elder abuse counseling. This court is adjourned. Outside, reporters surrounded Irving and me, cameras rolling, notebooks out. Today justice was served, I said, keeping my voice measured. My son and his former wife drugged me, forged my signature, stole my home, and tried to make me believe I was losing my mind. California's elder financial abuse laws protected me. The court system worked. I'm here to tell other seniors, if someone is exploiting you financially, even family, there are laws to protect you. Fight back? I did. I won. A reporter asked, "Will you reconcile with your son?" That's a question for another day. Today was about accountability. That evening, I sat in my study at Hillcrest Avenue. The coin collection was reorganized, properly displayed. Morgan silver dollars, buffalo nickels, proof sets. 40 years of careful accumulation, Warren had walked past every Sunday dinner without asking about. My phone showed a missed call. Unknown number. Probably Warren's new burner phone. I didn't call back. Tomorrow the newspapers would run stories about the sentencing. Tomorrow Warren would wake in a motel room with a felony record. Tomorrow Clara would drive to her retail job, earning less than she used to spend on lunch. And me? Tomorrow I'd have coffee with old colleagues from Beverly Hills. Discuss investments. Plan the San Francisco coin show. I picked up an 1893 S Morgan dollar worth $12,000. Warren had seen this coin hundreds of times, never asked about it, never cared. I felt something unexpected, not victory, not satisfaction, just tired of fighting, tired of anger, ready to let go. I set down the coin, turned off the desk lamp. Tomorrow was for moving forward. Tonight was for acknowledging that winning doesn't always feel like I thought it would. It feels like surviving. And maybe that's enough. August 8th. The thick envelope arrived with Warren's return address, some apartment in Pomona I didn't recognize. 8 pages, handwritten, clearly emotional. I sat at my desk with coffee, reading slowly. "Dad, I don't know if you'll even read this. Maybe you'll throw it away. I deserve that. But I need to say this. I was weak. Clara pushed, but I'm the one who did it. I drugged you. I forged your name. I sold your house. I told myself it was helping, but I knew it was stealing." He described his current life. Warehouse worker at Amazon Fulfillment Center. $34,000 a year. Shared apartment with 2 roommates. Court-mandated therapy twice weekly. 250 hours of community service completed at a senior center. The irony wasn't lost on him. I lost everything. My marriage ended June 28th. My job fired me March 15th. But the worst part? I lost you. I lost my father. Not because you died, but because I killed our relationship for money I didn't even get to keep. I'm in therapy, learning why I'm so weak, why I let Clara manipulate me, why I thought stealing from you was acceptable. I'm not asking for forgiveness now. I know I don't deserve it. I'm just saying I understand what I did, and I'm sorry. The next day, Clara's letter arrived, 3 pages typed. Apologized for her manipulative role, admitted pushing Warren toward theft. Working at Target now, living with disappointed parents, real estate license permanently revoked. Asked for forgiveness but didn't request relationship restoration. I spent 3 days thinking about responses. Part of me wanted to ignore both letters completely. Part of me remembered Warren as a boy, teaching him about coin collecting, his excitement finding a rare wheat penny, saying, "When I grow up, I want to be smart with money like you, Dad." Part of me knew forgiveness was for my own peace, not their benefit. August 13th, I wrote back to Warren. Only Warren. Clara got no reply. "Warren, I received your letter. I've read it several times. Here's what I want you to understand. Forgiveness isn't permission. I forgive you so I can move forward without carrying anger. But forgiveness doesn't mean trust. You destroyed that. It doesn't mean relationship. You burned that bridge. It doesn't mean I forget what you did. I never will. What it means is, I'm not spending my remaining years consumed by what you took from me. I'm spending them living the life you tried to steal. Maybe in years, many years, if you truly change, we can talk. As strangers getting reacquainted, not as father and son. That relationship died when you put drugs in my coffee, but I'm not closing the door forever. I'm just not opening it now. Focus on becoming someone worthy of respect, not mine, your own. I mailed it, felt weight lift from my shoulders. Mid-August, I hosted a small gathering. Sydney, Martha, Robert, Irving. Casual dinner on the patio. We toasted to second chances and knowing your worth. So you wrote back to Warren but not Clara? Sydney asked later, after the others had left. Warren's my son. That counts for something, even after what he did. Clara? She manipulated him, yes. But he made the choice. I owe her nothing. Not forgiveness, not acknowledgement, not closure. Let her find peace on her own. That's fair, cold, but fair. I learned something through this, I said. Being kind doesn't mean being weak. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. And family doesn't mean accepting abuse. Those are lessons I wish I'd learned before it came to this. My life had changed in unexpected ways. Weekly coffee with old colleagues from Beverly Hills at Earth Cafe in Old Pasadena. Investment discussion group on Thursdays. Advisory board meetings for the Elder Rights Protection Organization, monthly. They'd asked me to share my story for their training video, help educate law enforcement about financial exploitation. I'd said yes, not for revenge, but to help others avoid my experience. Late August, Sydney and I sat in my study, discussing the upcoming San Francisco coin show. Sunshine poured through the window, lighting the garden I'd been tending again. So, how do you feel? Sydney asked. Really? Now that it's all done? I looked around my study. Coins properly displayed, books organized, life rebuilt. You know what's strange? I spent 40 years believing money corrupts people. Turns out money just reveals who they already are. Warren was always weak. Clara was always greedy. I just didn't want to see it. I gestured to the house, the life I'd reclaimed. Now, I'm free. Free from illusions about family that never really existed. Free from wondering if I'm worth more than my bank account. Free to actually live. I'm 65. I've got good years left. Warren tried to steal them. Instead, he gave me clarity. I know who I am now. I know what I'm worth, both financially and as a human being. Sydney raised his coffee mug. That's worth more than the house he tried to take. Exactly. On my desk, partially hidden by papers, sat a photograph of young Warren, maybe 8 years old, holding a coin I'd given him, smiling. I hadn't thrown it away, but it faced slightly away, not prominent, acknowledging the past without being trapped by it. That child had become someone I didn't know, someone who'd drug his father and steal his home. I'd mourned that loss, but mourning was different from dwelling. Tomorrow I'd drive to meet colleagues in Beverly Hills. Next month, San Francisco. Next year, who knew? Maybe Europe. Maybe just more time in this garden, tending what I'd almost lost. Warren would spend tomorrow at the Amazon warehouse, scanning boxes, thinking about what he'd destroyed. Clara would fold clothes at Target, facing consequences that would follow her for decades. I'd spend tomorrow living. The legal battle was over. Justice had been served, proportional, complete, appropriate. They'd tried to steal my life. They'd lost theirs. They'd wanted my money. They'd never have financial security again. They'd thought I was weak. They'd learned otherwise. The criminal records were permanent. The probation would end eventually. But the lessons, those lasted forever. For them, the consequences would echo for decades. For me, I was finally completely undeniably free. I looked out at the California summer sunshine warming my garden, 65 years old, millions in the bank, a house that was truly mine, friends who valued me, purpose in helping others, and clarity about what mattered. Warren had tried to steal my final years. Instead, he'd given me the best gift possible, proof of my own strength. I was done looking back. The future was waiting, bright and entirely mine. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.